You know sundown towns. These were places where black folks had to be out before dark. But what if your curfew wasn't a shotgun and a sheriff, but a mortgage? If a deed said that legally your family could not live here, how much generational wealth would you lose? This was Levittown, USA. It was America's first modern suburb. It turned sundown towns into paperwork. Today, we're going to show you the manuals, the money, and the black family that refused to leave. I'm your host, Country Boy. This is One Mic Black History. And if you like stories like this, you can find more at onemichistory.com. But without further ado, let's get started. Before we get started, let's talk about the why. After World War II, millions of families needed housing. Wartime building freeze and a baby boom meant a true housing shortage. The GI Bill promised veterans low-cost homes. FHA insured mortgages to make these payments affordable and the terms longer. This was new. Before the 1930s, most buyers paid big down payments and had short, risky loans. Now, a veteran could pay little to nothing and stretch out payments over 20 or 30 years. That changed who could buy in on paper. And in practice, these rules meant people who ran them were picking winners and losers. Enter William Levitt and his company. During the war, they built military housing fast. After the war, they took that speed to Long Island. Levittown, New York broke ground in 1947. They took the assembly line to the field. 20 plus steps from slab to shingles. Crews moved house to house. The company milled its own lumber. It made its own nails. It even poured bathtubs in bulk. At its peak, they finished more than 30 homes a day. Over 4 years, they built more than 17,000 homes. Each one had a little yard, a modern kitchen, and often radiant heating in the floor. The sticker price? About $8,000 to start. For a veteran with a VA loan and a low down payment, sometimes just a few $100s, means that you could easily own a home. But Levittown was more than just houses. It was a plan. It was curving streets and calm traffic, schools and swimming pools, village green shopping centers, a bus to the train, appliances included. Lawns came with rules. Cut the grass, no clothesline out front, fresh paint. It looked like a ready-made American dream. A private yard, a good school, a quick commute, and a payment that beat city rent. For many working families, Levittown delivered exactly what they were looking for. But here's the rub. Early leases and sales paperwork said that homes were only for members of the Caucasian race. That matched the thinking of federal housing at the time. Appraisers and underwriters who were trained to protect what they called neighborhood stability, they warned lenders about mixing races with lower values. They pushed restrictive covenants. They graded areas by race and income. Banks followed. Money flowed to one side of town and not the other. In 1948, the Supreme Court ruled that courts could not enforce these racial covenants. But the habits, the manuals, the sales policies did not vanish overnight. William Levitt said it plain more than once. He argued that he could fix the housing shortage, but not a social problem. He claimed that if he sold it to one black family, white buyers would walk, lenders would balk, and the whole project would fail. He called it good business. That business choice matched the federal system. Between the mid-1930s and the early 1960s, only a tiny share of FHA and VA loans went to black families. In many towns, the number was close to zero. So the dream was very public on the newsreel and private in the sales office. That segregation didn't just extend to the neighborhood. Levitt Sons ran open shop sites and fought unions. During the early years, their Long Island crews were almost exclusively white. Civil rights groups pressed for change. In later projects, including Pennsylvania and New Jersey, Protests and negotiation opened some jobs for black workers, but the patterns held. Most constructions and sales jobs stayed white during the boom years. And that mattered. The wages from these years bought cars, paid for college, and seeded small businesses. See, the opportunities here were all clustered together to benefit one side and not the other. But then there was a flashpoint. William and Daisy Meyer, a veteran and an engineer, bought a second-hand Levittown, Pennsylvania home in 1957. Their white friends helped them with the purchase. On the first night, a crowd gathered. By the second week, hundreds came by daily. They waved flags. They sang the anthem to drown out the family. They hung a Confederate banner at the house next door. They blasted music, smashed windows. They even burned a cross on their lawn. Local police stood by or moved extremely slowly. The state had to step in. Troopers lined the street. A judge barred the worst of the agitators. A Bucks County jury later convicted several men of unlawful conspiracy, and the Myers family stayed in their home. They mowed the lawn and they went to work under a spotlight few of us are equipped to bear. New Jersey, they had their own fight. The state passed a strong law against discrimination in 1945. By 1960, its civil rights agency ordered Levitt to stop race-based sales discrimination in Wilmington Borough. Courts backed the state. Around that time, the White House started to move. By 1962, President Kennedy had signed an order barring discrimination in federally backed housing. By 1968, Congress passed the Fair Housing Act. On paper, the line fell, but in practice, it just bent a little slowly. Steering and subtle screening continued. Zoning locked out large lots and single-family homes. And the equity curve had already taken off for many first-time buyers. So let's talk about the numbers, because this is where the past lands directly on the kitchen table. A starter Levittown home in 1949 might be around $8,000. By the 1970s, 1980s, it could be worth 10 times that much. By the 2000s, many of them passed $500,000. That rise became down payments for children's college tuitions, small business loans, or a cushion in a crisis. If you were kept out of the first wave, you missed the steepest climb. Even if doors opened up later, you were further from the summit than everyone else. That gap shows up in today's wealth numbers. Two families with the same job and the same income in 1950 could look very different by the 2000s if one bought a home in a favorite suburb and the other could not. And schools and town lines followed. Levittown was over 90% white decades after it was built. It has now grown more diverse, but Long Island and Bucks County still show sharp divides in school funding, test scores, and property taxes. Those lines are not about choice. They were built into where the money could go and where it wasn't going to go. What could be built and what was blocked. Who felt safe crossing the line and who did not. When we see a map of test scores or commuting times, we're looking at a map of yesterday's mortgages and racial covenants. There's another cause. When doors opened up in 1964, the separate black businesses that had served black customers often lost those customers extremely fast. Urban renewal and new highways would cut straight through black business districts. Places like Detroit's Paradise Valley or Nashville's Jefferson Street were hollowed out. In New York and Pennsylvania, older village centers near Levittown lost shops to malls and big boxes. The winners and losers shifted again. The story isn't simple, but it's traceable. And choices and policies and incentives shaped who built equity and where businesses could thrive and who could absorb those shocks. So what does any of this mean? Well, Levittown solved a real problem for many families and locked out others by design. Second, if you look at the tools, the same power that once ensured exclusion can now ensure inclusion. Fair lending enforcement, down payment assistance, and zoning that allows for a range of homes near jobs and school. Third, check out your local history. pull the deed from your county archive. Find out when your block opened up. You may find a clause that was crossed out in 1948 and find a story that you didn't even know existed. So let's close the loop with the sundown towns we started with. Those places use fear and threat of a nighttime deadline. Levittown used forms and daytime smile, but they both drew lines that said black people need to stay out. The lesson isn't that suburbs are bad or cities are pure. The lesson is that design plus law plus money makes for a real systemic issue. If we create a system to sort by risk, it will also sort by race. And if we create a system that opens doors, it can do that too. The dream works best when everybody feels welcome and the rules are clear and the receipts match the promise. Thank you. I'm your host, Country Boy. This has been the story of the suburban sundown town. If you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. I'd like to thank all my financial contributors. I love you all my day ones. You guys were amazing. Thank y'all. Peace.